All right, this is the most often asked question in woodworking, and it's one of the most difficult ones to answer, and I still struggle with it myself, and it's how to price your work. And I just recently went through this when I went through the anxiety of turning in a $79,000 bid, still waiting to hear if I got it or not. So I figured, let's go ahead and get into this topic, step by step, best way to price it. Let's go ahead and start that now. Okay, so first of all, let's start with some things not to do, because these are the most common things I hear. Now listen, if you go on the internet, anywhere, anything where there's woodworking, people are gonna, how do I price what I sell? It's not just woodworking, it's skilled trades, whether you're pricing drywall, carpentry, painting. This video is for you, okay? So first of all, what to avoid. Time-honored one is time and material. The truth of the matter is and so I want to future-proof this. So like this formula, it's always going to adapt, but you want to have a formula that you can use throughout your whole career. The issue with time and material is as you scale, your material costs should go down. Also, as you scale, you should be investing in equipment and your skill level should come up so that your time goes down. So all of the investments, you're lowering your prices. You're not getting anything for the investments. The idea here, it's business. You want to make as much money as you can. Let's be honest with you. And the market's going to let you know if you charge too much. So that's one of the big reasons why I don't like time and material. I don't like material plus for the same reasons. A lot of times people will say, oh, I'll take material times 3 plus 20 or 30% for profit. For the same reason, I'm not a big fan of that. The other thing is I don't ever want to charge by the hour. There's a big reason. It's a psychological thing for me. I think it's the hourly mentality. Now, I think if you're coming from like, you've never worked by the hour before, you left the job where you were making salary, maybe it's not going to affect you as much. But I don't ever necessarily want people, you're not paying for my time. You're paying for my skill. You're paying for my investments in my business, all of those things. And the idea is not that I want to make X amount of hour. Typically, I want to make X amount a year and then hopefully crush that by as much as possible. But it gets you out of that hourly mindset of, oh, I'm just working 40 hours a week. Because guess what? If you're just now starting, you're not going to just work 40 hours a week. I'm just going to be honest with you. You're going to work your ass off, okay? So those are the big ones that I try to steer people away from, that I say don't use. This is what I do suggest you use. And it starts off with figuring out your cost, what you need to be paid for labor. And to do that, we're going to find the minimum. All right. Now you can look up, what does a woodworker make in my area? Oh, $40 an hour, that's what I'm going to charge. And then you have to figure out how long it's going to take you, which is a whole another spiel. No. So let's figure out what your monthly costs are. And that is, we're getting into your personal finance. And guess what? You should already have this information, but if not, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go through your bank statements. You're going to look at how much money that you actually spend personally. Let's separate it from the business for right now. And you figure out, okay, how much is my house payment, my car payment, electric, cell phone? What am I spending every single month? Okay. Figure that out, total it all up, divide it by 4. That's the minimum amount you need to make in labor per week. Okay. So that's step 1. So for the sake of this whole example here, let's say you need to make a minimum of $1,000 a week just to pay your bills and your basic living expenses. Now, when you're doing this and you're going through all this stuff, another thing that you really want to do is you want to identify everything, every one of those expenses that can go away. Because, again, you're in business for yourself. Life's not always gentle. There may be times that you need to go lean. So getting your personal finances straight is one of the most important things. That way you're not underpaying yourself. You're not paying yourself a wage that you can't possibly make it on. And you have that ability that if you need to go lean, you can. So this is the bare minimum that you need to make is $1,000 per week. And obviously you probably want to take your significant other and your kids or whatever to dinner from time to time and things like that. So you want to make more than that, but that's your bare minimum. So that's step 1, is to go through your personal finances and find your bare minimum. Okay? So step 2, now we're getting into the business costs, okay? So for the most part, we're going to start off addressing any service business, okay? So if you're doing custom furniture, things like that, yes, you're making a product, but really it's more like a service because you're very similar to like a drywall guy who's going into a home. Everything is like job by job, case by case, okay? So the first thing you need to do to figure out your business expenses is you need to do the same thing that you did with your personal finance, and you need to figure out your fixed costs. So these costs are the costs that you're going to pay no matter what. If you do 0 jobs or you do 100 jobs, these don't really change much. That is going to be things like your insurance. Do you pay rent on a building? Do you have a truck payment? Do you have employees? I'm going to actually put those in fixed costs because they should be working 40 or 50 hours a week. You should know what that is. It gives you an idea. If they call off, they call off. But for the most part, you should know what that figure is. Throwing that in the fixed cost just makes everything easier. You just adjust it if you hire and fire. Okay? So your fixed costs, those are all of the no matter what, you're paying for this. Okay? Maybe you have a monthly advertising budget. And you know it's the same budget every month. You throw that in a fixed cost. Okay? You have to account for your fixed cost on every single job. That's why I don't like time and material and things like that, because it doesn't account for your fixed costs. All right. So we've roughly figured out your labor. You need a minimum dollars pay yourself, minimum $1,000 a week. Now we have your fixed costs. Let's say that comes out to be $200 a week. You need to know, no matter what projects you're doing, you need to make, just to keep your doors open, $1,200 a week. Okay. That's our starting point for pricing before we get into anything else. Okay. That doesn't account for individual jobs. It does not account for consumables. So that is step one. You need to know what we call it the break-even point is. You need to know your break-even point. So you either need to get the jobs to, sorry. You either need to get the jobs to take care of that every single week, or you need to adjust your living standard, your business expenses, things like that, to get that break-even point down. Now, most of us, I bootstrapped my business. I started with nothing. You know what I mean? So my fixed costs were very low. I don't have kids. My personal life costs were very low. This is why pricing's so hard, because it's different for everyone. Like, I don't have kids. My competitors might have 5, right? They might be charging twice as much as me, but I might be profiting twice as much as them. That's why there is no real, like, guaranteed, like, you open it up like auto mechanics. This job should take this many hours and you charge this much an hour, boom, that's what we pay. We don't really have that in the trades. We don't have that with these services. Now, if you are batching out and you're basically manufacturing at this point, you're making cutting boards, you know how many you can make a week, your biggest problem, selling them in a week, something like that, you're going to want to do this a little bit differently, all right? But you still need to know all of this, but there's more to it. So from here out, we're going to kind of go with the service end of things. Whereas if you're manufacturing, typically your biggest issue is sales rather than maximizing profit. You obviously want to maximize profit there too. Typically when you're in the trade business, especially these days, like, your problem is not necessarily getting sales. I don't have problems getting sales. Your problem is getting jobs done and making as much money as you can off of each job. So with all of that being said, those are your fundamentals. Your personal finance, figure out what you're paying yourself. Your business fixed costs. If you do not cover those, you're screwed, because the money's just going to disappear and you don't know where it goes. So that's number one. That's number two. Those are the most critical parts. All right. So there we go. Number 3 is one of the more obvious ones, but there's still some pitfalls you can run into here. Okay. So now we're at building the thing. In this case, we are building a table. Okay. So what do you need to build a table? You need wood. Right? How much does the wood cost? Easy peasy. Well, no, here's the thing. You need to account not just for the wood that you used in the project, but every board foot you have to buy. Or say we're building cabinets. You only use a half a sheet of plywood, you still need paid for that whole sheet of plywood. So that's a big thing there that I see a lot of people. I've made this mistake before. For whatever reason, I forget shelves and cabinets almost every dang time. And I never charge people for the shelves. I should be charging them for the shelf material. I'm not going to do that anymore. New goal going forward. Never going to forget the shelves again. So that's the thing, is you want to make sure that whatever your raw material cost is, say I only need 40 board feet for this project, but I need to buy 60, you're charging for 60, not 40. Okay? Even if you reuse it later in another project, that's just a bonus to you, but you need to make sure that you recoup that initial money of all 60 board feet. So that's the obvious stuff, right? Now let's talk about consumables, because this is easy to forget. Generally speaking, the way I do consumables, I have everything inventoried. I know roughly how much I spend a month, and I just kind of divide that up You know what I mean? Some projects I use more sandpaper. Some projects I use more glue. My consumable cost is pretty reasonable, actually, but you got to account for everything. Screws, this and that. You'll see a lot of YouTube videos where they'll tell you you're going to charge them for a whole box of sandpaper and you're going to mark up the sandpaper and you're going to make money on the markups, money on the markups, money on the markups. I don't believe in money on the markups simply because I believe charging enough profit in the job anyways. The other thing is I don't give people an itemized sheet. If you get a job bid from me, you get one number. Coffered ceiling, this much money. Not coffered ceiling, labor, material, screws. Don't ever do yourself a huge favor. No more itemized deductions, okay? If they ask you, just tell them what you're going to make. Just be honest. But my thing is, if you want to see my itemized deductions, that means you're probably trying to nickel and dime me. It's not going to happen. I'm going to use the materials I want to use, and I'm not going to negotiate my price anyway. So you don't need to know it. It's just a headache. Let's just make it simple for the customer. So I don't mark all of that stuff up. But you do need to make sure that you account for consumables, okay? That's a big one. Drill bits, saw blades, things like that. As you go on and you're doing this, I'm just assuming you're starting from nothing. You kind of get a feel that, hey, I need to replace my saw blades every so often. I need to replace this every so often. Like you start to get that feel of like your inventory. I just kind of know roughly what my inventory is a month. It's about like $300 a month for like all of my consumables. I just make sure that that gets divided up into each job. Okay, so there you have it. You have your table built. You know that it is, let's just say, let's do cabinets. I'm all over the place. Let's say you're building built-ins and you know that you need 6 sheets of plywood, 40 board foot of maple, 2 gallons of paint, a gallon of primer, whatever all that is. You have that number. That is your direct material cost. All right, you have your consumable cost. You have your labor, which needs to be roughly $1,000 a week. And you know that you need to make, what I say, $200 a week. I should have really been writing this down. $200 a week to cover your fixed costs. So that right there is your break even. You'll notice that you're paying yourself first. Okay? That's not counting employees. That's in the fixed cost, right? So employee labor is in the fixed cost. That's covered, but your labor, your time, that is important. You need to pay yourself. All right? So we've essentially accounted for everything here. Let's get into profit. Okay, so you got all your costs covered. You're paying yourself. Maybe you're paying your employees. Now let's talk about the company getting paid, because that's how you build the company. You take profit, you can reinvest profit into the company. You shouldn't be pulling that out of your pocket. Or maybe that profit sits there to cover your taxes, because guess what? You're going to be profitable, so you're going to pay taxes, okay? Most people talk about 20 to 30% in profit margin, okay? I think 30% is a good goal. Now, one thing that I really didn't account for when like paying yourself is you need to kind of establish what your skill level is, and you need to be honest with yourself, okay? You should pay yourself more as you become more experienced. Right? So that should, maybe you pay yourself that in the profit. Maybe that is your extra income that you put in there, but that's something that I left out. That needs to be in there. And you need to be honest with yourself. And then the other thing is you need to be honest about the product that you're selling. Are you doing a premium product, or are you slapping together 2x4s? I got nothing against people slapping together 2x4s, but you can't price it premium and expect to sell premium. If you do, good for you. But I try to deliver a premium product with premium materials, with my skill level. Therefore, I feel like I demand a minimum. God, I can talk. I really shouldn't be on YouTube. I don't know why you're watching this, but thank you. Like, subscribe, hype, do things. Yeah, so you have all of that figured out, okay? Now there's one question. How much time is it going to take you? That is an experience-based question, right? And I can't answer it for you because A, I don't know your shop. I don't know the tools you have. I don't know how much space you have. The smaller your shop, the more difficult it is to work in, especially on big things. That'll slow you down. I don't know if you're doing the install. You should be charging for the install. That's another cost that people always forget. Yours truly included. Like I've done it. I forgot to charge for installs. So this is the hardest part, is figuring out how long something's going to take. So here's my recommendation. If you think it's going to take 3 days, plan on 5, right? If you think it's going to take 5 days, plan on 8. And what'll start to happen as you go is you'll start to kind of like layer jobs in, right? So I'm at a point now where I'm never just doing a job. I'm always doing 2 to 3 jobs. They're in various states. I have various parts of the shop. Right now, I am doing an interior door painting, which is just for a great customer. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be painting interior doors. I have that job going. I have 2 custom built-ins going at the same time. I had that $79,000 bid out there and looming. And then I have like 2 small odd jobs going at the same time. Plus, I'm building 2 cabinets for my own bathroom. All of those things are always going at the same time. I would love to be able to do 1 job at a time, but this is kind of the key to efficiency. Paint's got to dry. I don't want to be doing this while paint dries. The same thing with glue. I don't want to do a glue up and be like, I'm done for the day. You know, that's a way to really maximize your profit. You start stacking things on top of each other, and suddenly, like, you're taking your dead time and you're filling it with this job, and then this job, and then this job. And it gets chaotic, but this is how you start to really make money. The kicker is that you still want to use the same. Okay, this job should take me 5 days. This job should also take me 5 days. I'm going to do them both at the same time. They may take me 6 days as a result. They may take me 4 days because I bought new equipment or I'm getting better, whatever it may be. So you're going to kind of estimate at first, and I would estimate heavy because it's better to be wrong that way and you make more money than wrong the other way and you lose your butt, which you shouldn't lose your butt anyways because, you know, you've covered that. I guess you could lose your butt and that it takes a month when you figured 5 days. You know, that's 3 extra weeks of those fixed costs coming out. So yeah, that's the thing that's the hardest part, is you sort of have to estimate. And I do it by days rather than by hours. I don't work by the hour, like I said. So I assume this built-in is going to take me 3 days. Things to include in that is that you are going back and forth to the customer. I don't charge my full rate for going back and forth to the customer. That's just part of it, but it's something you have to be aware of. You have gas, you have time that you're not in the shop doing a thing, means that you're not making money going to get the sale. We call that opportunity cost. It's the cost difference between doing this and this difference here. Like, okay, going to get that customer gets me future money, but it costs me hours of shop time in the meantime. Opportunity cost. I don't know if I was clear on that or not, but something to keep in mind. So there's all of these other things in there that you typically don't count on that you need to count on. And that's why I say overestimate things a little bit, going to get material, all of those sorts of things. So if you add all of this up, you start to get a pretty good idea of what you need to charge to make money. Now, you probably have anxiety about it, so let's talk about how to kind of check our work. All right, so you have an idea of what you need to cost. All right, so you have an idea of what you need to charge. You got anxiety about it. You're new to this. Maybe it's a $79,000 job and you want to sleep a little bit better and you don't want to rip anyone off, but you don't want to sell yourself short. Here's what you can do. You can, number one, and this is my favorite one, and I've been doing this for probably 3 months now. I've been running my method and then checking it against ChatGPT. Just ask ChatGPT, hey, this is the area that I live in. This is the basic level of skill. This is basic level of craftsmanship. This is what they want. You can input your cost too if you want. What should I charge? And let it spit out a number. Okay? I found it to be pretty close, but it's always going to give you a bracket, right? That's one way. Number two is to just get online and start Googling. This is what I did early on. What should this cost? What should that cost? And don't compare yourself to Walmart or IKEA. You're not competing with them. You're doing custom work. Compare yourself to custom, right? Sometimes those prices are hard to find because a lot of people don't publish it. So just look for like the highest end stuff. Who's making a very high end table? Oh, this is what they're charging. I should be able to charge that. So those are kind of like your, if you want to skip all those steps, you can do that. You'll probably be fine. I've done it before. But it gives you that little bit of, you know, peace of mind that you've made the right call and you charge the correct amount of money and you're not ripping anyone off and you're not losing money. Okay. Here's something you want to keep in mind too. You should not get 100% of bids that you submit. You shouldn't get 50%. If I'm getting 50%, I'm not charging enough money. I gotta up the money a little bit. That's for your own sanity. It means that your market is demanding and that the supply isn't there. And you can't supply all of it at a cheap price. So increase your price because that's what the market is telling you. Crap, keep getting all these bids. Up the price, up the price, up the price, up the price. Once I hit around 40% of people say yes, I know I'm doing pretty well. If it gets below 40%, maybe I need to come back down to reality a little bit. So that is the complicatedness of pricing. There's a chance that you watch this and you're still confused. And if so, go ahead and leave a comment and I will do my best to answer anything on there. I know this is tough. I also know that this isn't a very interesting video to be watching, but it's an important one. And I probably should have snuck a dick joke or something in there to spice it up a bit, but here we are. So yeah, that is pricing. And I want you to take this model and I want you to go make as much money as you possibly can because I want everyone to be successful. I want everyone to win. Keep in mind, you're a luxury service. You're not IKEA. If they want IKEA, they can go to IKEA or Walmart or whatever. That's not you, okay? You're never ripping anyone off. They want your services. They don't need your services, okay? You're not being a crook. Just being honest. It's like, get that out of your mind. There's no such thing as making too much money. So if you're out there and in your first year or two of woodworking or whatever it is, I want you to set this goal. I want your goal to be that you're going to make 6 figures a year. That's your start, okay? Crush that goal. Forget about how much an hour, none of that. Make that goal, crush that goal, do better. And if you do, leave a comment. If you have a pricing method of your own that contradicts mine, by all means, leave it in the comments because I am not so proud to not learn. Like, I can admit that I'm wrong. If you find any mistakes, anything that I missed, this is years of me missing things. I think I have them all covered now. A lot of money left on the table. I don't want you to lose money on the table. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like I said before, like, subscribe, do the things. Hype now, I guess. And until next time, go build shit.